This is Dave Johnson with Modern Family Law, and we are here with Jen, one of our associates in the office. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Gehring, and I just joined Modern Family Law. I have a diverse background. I began as a law professor and also have a strong litigation background, working with all types of clients from diverse backgrounds.
Great. Well, welcome to our little podcast.
Thank you.
Your first one.
My very first one.
Today's topic is what we call simplified services, and simplified services are also known as either partitioned or unbundled services. A lot of acronyms. Tell us generally what these three things might be: the unbundled, simplified, or partitioned legal services.
Simplified Services is a good fit for somebody who's looking to file documents but doesn't necessarily need representation. Simplified Services, unbundled services all come into play when a case is uncontested, so the parties are in agreement, and they just need some help in drafting the forms and filing. It involves more of a limited representation.
Okay, and so what do you get? What should your expectation be for like a deliverable from a lawyer on a simplified services?
Your expectation should be you still have to meet the deadlines, but the ease of the simplified service is the fact that you have an attorney, a licensed attorney, preparing the documents for you, which can be very overwhelming for people at first. Your attorney will handle the drafting for your review, all the necessary documents, so all that you basically have to do is file the documents yourself.
Right. You still play a role though in preparing the documents, because the lawyer doesn't know everything about your case. I mean, you got to give them case names and birth dates and things like that, right?
You still have to provide the lawyer with the information that helps us fill out the documents for you. So you provide us with the questionnaire that helps us to draft the documents, and you still have the ongoing consultation. The only difference being is we do not represent you in court.
Right. So let's talk about that limitation. You're the lawyer, you're providing advice, you're helping them to complete these documents. Isn't it a requirement that you go to court with them?
No. What happens is, under the rules of civil procedure, there's a statement at the bottom that says, we have helped you and aided you in the drafting, but we don't necessarily have to provide representation.
And in fact, the expectation is that you're not going to go to court, you're not going to go to the initial status conference or any of those sorts of like mediation or anything that's required by the court. You're just there, right, to provide guidance and support in preparation of the documents themselves.
Exactly. These services are geared for the parties that don't have any issues, meaning that the divorce is what's called uncontested. So there shouldn't be any issues going to court. That's where this service comes into play, where you really don't need to hire an attorney for full representation because you're in agreement on all the issues.
Okay. And so what does a client or a person going through a divorce could go get this packet from the clerk of the court, right? I mean, the clerk of the court will give you a packet of documents to fill out, right?
They do, but that still, the documents are very complicated and sometimes not as user-friendly as the clerk just handing it to you. With the aid of an attorney, such things such as financial disclosures are very, very difficult to draft for a layperson. So with this package, you have the ability to have a lawyer's services to help you understand and guide you through this process, rather than you trying to navigate these complicated documents on your own.
I mean, some people just don't have the money to hire a lawyer, and so the best they can do is to go get those documents and try it themselves, though, right?
You absolutely. There's pro se coordinators through the clerk of the court, but again, as I said, a lot of times the documents are not self-explanatory, and they're difficult for lay people to understand. So through this service, you don't have to pay for the full representation. It is generally a flat fee. So you have the aid of an attorney without the added expense.
Yeah, oftentimes I tell clients who are, not sure, or not clients, potential clients who are not sure about whether simplified services or full representation or whether they can do it themselves, I say, go down and get the packet and read through it and see if you can do this and understand it. And you're go ahead and try it. If you just can't afford it, you got to do it somehow. And getting the packet is better than nothing. But if you want help at any level, like preparing the documents or having us go to court, at least that service is available to people at the level that they might need us, right?
Yes, I always tell people, be armed with the knowledge. Go look through the documents if you're even contemplating a divorce or having an allocation of parental responsibilities, always go down, look at the forms, download and read through them. The benefit to this service is, as I said, the documents are complicated, especially financial disclosures, which are a key part of the documentation needed to file a divorce. With this service, you have someone that can help explain the different terminology and walk you through it, rather than you trying to navigate this process yourself.
Right. So what's the difference between doing it the Simplified Services way? We call it Simplified Services, other people call it unbundled or partitioned. What's the difference between doing it the Simplified Services way versus full representation?
In full representation, you have an attorney that actually represents you, meaning they enter their appearance and they are your attorney of record. They will attend mediation, court hearings, but these are generally in cases where you need an attorney and the issues are going to be contested. If you're not going to have contested issues, this is a great service because none of those issues are going to come into play, and it's really a money-saving way to go about a complicated process.
How much money do you think a client can save doing it the simplified way?
Thousands of dollars. If
Yeah.
you don't have contested issues, as I said, a drawn-out divorce, and it's very hard to say, but it becomes how disputed is the case, how acrimonious are the parties. In the Simplified Services, it's a case where both parties are in agreement, and that is one of the conditions. If you feel like your divorce is going to turn contested at that point, that's when you need representation to go to hearings, to go to status conference, to actually have an attorney by your side through the process.
Okay. Now, in a Simplified Services setting, do you represent both parties?
No.
Okay, how does that work?
That's very confusing. When you get the Simplified Services, you are the client. Even though you are filing uncontested, meaning you and the other party are in agreement with all the issues, it's very clear under our rules of ethics that we only represent the client. Therefore, we only represent your interests, not the other party.
And so what does that mean for the other party, when we represent our client, what happens with the other party in the process if they don't have a lawyer?
The implication being, if something were to go wrong, it's very clear, and that's why we have that blurb at the end saying, you know, we've assisted you in these documents. It's very clear that the other party, if things become contested, have to get their own representation, because your interests may not always be aligned, and if it comes to the point where the parties' interests are not aligned, it has to be clear that we represent our client, not the other party.
Right. And so we don't prepare any of the documents for the other
No.
side. They still have to do that on their own. They still have to get it to court. We won't file, we won't prepare, we won't consult,
Absolutely.
we won't, right.
And it has to be clear that you still have to meet your own deadlines. We are there to prepare the documents, but it's still up to the client to meet the court's deadlines, so
Right,
that to
'cause
ensure the case doesn't get dismissed.
Oftentimes, we don't even know what those deadlines are
Exactly.
because we haven't entered an appearance
Exactly.
in the case. Okay. So back to the costs of doing a Simplified Services case. Does the client need to, is it one fee for all of it, beginning to end? Or how is Simplified Services offered to a client?
Well, it's generally a flat fee, and it can be paid in installments or all at once. It depends on which package you get.
Okay.
You can definitely break it out into the different documents, because not everybody needs help with everything. They may decide that they just want the petition or the case information sheet, but it is helpful to purchase the entire package. And you can, as I said, it's a flat fee. So no matter how long it takes us to work on that, you've only paid one set fee. Whereas, as you said, if it's a divorce where you get representation, you're billed for every amount of time it takes the attorney to work on that case. So this is just a flat fee to prepare all the documents.
So in some circumstances, you can buy all of the documents on a flat
Absolutely.
fee. On other circumstances, you could buy just one document. like you
Piecemeal, it's
said.
a la carte. You can
Okay.
buy whatever services you think you need. Some people may decide, well, I think I can do this on my own, but I really need help with the separation agreement, which is the division of the marital assets.
Okay.
So yes, you can either order services a la carte, or you can get the entire package that encompasses all the services.
And you could decide that I need your help with the petition, but not anything else.
Absolutely.
But you could come back later and say, okay,
Absolutely.
now I've changed my mind. I need your
Absolutely.
help with the separation.
After people get into it, and like I said, and we're in agreement, you should always look at the documents first to see if it's something that you can do on your own. And yes, you may go through and think, well, I can file this, but I really think that I need help with this second part.
And in fact, you could. What happens if like you've hired somebody on the Simplified Services side of things, and at some point, you realize, we're not going to work this out. We're going to go to court. What happens then?
At that point, you have to decide whether you want to retain an attorney. If you think you're going to need to go to court, the Simplified Services is no longer applicable, and you have to, at that point, decide whether you're going to retain your current attorney for representation or go hire someone to continue helping you with the case.
So if we've helped somebody with the Simplified Services side of things, we can then jump in as the attorney.
Absolutely, and we're in the best case to do that because we're already familiar with your documents and have already started the process.
And in fact, those clients that do decide, sometimes it doesn't work out and people end up arguing. Those clients who do decide to hire us on the hourly rate, they get a discount on the fees that they might pay because we've already done the work, we already know them, we have a relationship with them, right?
Absolutely, and that's the benefit, because instead of starting over and having to pay a new attorney to relearn your case, we're already set in place, we've already reviewed your documents, we've already established a relationship. So it's a very easy transition if you find your case does go from uncontested to contested.
Okay, so if I am shopping around and I don't know if I have the money to hire this, I mean, you hear all these horror stories about how much divorce might cost and things. What things do you think are the most important to me to decide whether I should go down the simplified route or whether I should get an attorney the traditional, retainer way?
Well, you have a really honest conversation with your soon-to-be ex-spouse and determine, because for this service to work, everything you have to be in agreement. So you have to be in agreement if you have children on what your parenting time is going to look like. You have to be in agreement whether you're going to seek maintenance. You have to be in agreement on how you're going to separate your property out. So really the determination is made are we going to be in agreement on all these issues? Or if there's even the slightest thing, well, I'm not sure if I want to waive maintenance, then you're going to go down a different path. So it's an honest conversation you have to have with your spouse to determine which way this is going to play out and whether you want to seek simplified services or get representation.
Right. Okay, anything else that we should be talking about on the simplified services route?
No, I think it's very helpful for people who need some help navigating a difficult process.
Right. It is not, like you said before, it is not for cases that are going to be disputed or going to be in conflict. Mm-hmm. And you can oftentimes waste your money going down the simplified services route if you know that it's going to result in conflict later, because you might end up having to pay somebody twice.
Exactly.
To go back. And so oftentimes, when people want to hire us on the simplified services because they're less expensive, you got to really tell them, look, if this is going to result in conflict, I don't want you to go down this path if it's going to result in more fees.
As I said, an honest conversation you have to have.
It's also with yourself too,
Exactly.
because you've got to assess whether you're going to engage in some sort of conflict too, and you have to be honest about that if you really want to use your money judiciously here, right?
Because you're not going to save money if you go down, as you said, you have to be honest with yourself and honest about the issues and whether you're in agreement on them. So you can avoid paying twice to then have somebody else get familiar with your case. So it really is a service that's geared to uncontested parties with relatively simple issues.
Right. But for that group of people, this could be a really good way to save a lot of money and get it done right.
Absolutely.
Right. And the lawyer is always there to answer questions and help guide it.
Always available for consultation. You just have to the client has to know that we don't technically represent them.
Right. And that doesn't cost them extra?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Anything else you can think of you want to?
No.
All right. Well, that is Simplified Services. We appreciate you checking out our blog, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.
Thank you.